We move voluntarily to feel good, we move to get stronger, we move for peace of mind, and some of us move involuntarily, repeatedly. Hello and welcome to TICFIT the podcast, a podcast where we discuss all things movement in both the exercise sphere and in life with Tourette Syndrome. This is a platform to discuss Tourette Syndrome and its effects on our bodies. We'll speak with movement professionals where we can advocate and educate about Tourette Syndrome, while the Tourette community can benefit from the expertise of these individuals. We'll also speak with professionals about Tourette Syndrome and other tic disorders. I'm your host, Raquel Cunningham, and I've been on a quest for the past 2 decades to discover the connection between movement, exercise, and our ticking muscles. This is not meant to diagnose or treat Tourette Syndrome. There is no cure for Tourette Syndrome. We are here to advocate and educate about Tourette through conversation, and anything in this podcast is for informational purposes only. Please always consult with your doctor before beginning any exercise program to make sure that it's right for you. Hey, everybody. Welcome. I'm really excited to welcome. Oh my gosh, I'm already bumbling my words. I'm really excited to welcome Kathy Giordano here today with us. She is the International Education Committee Chair for Tics and Tourette across the globe. They call it TTAG. She's a Tourette Education Specialist since 2000. They've co-authored a book, A Family's Quest for Rhythm. She provides school team meetings in which educators can ask her specific questions regarding students with Tourette and challenging symptoms. And as a professional Tourette education specialist, she has over 35 years experience meeting with student teams to answer questions and assist them with developing strategies for students with their unique needs due to the challenges of Tourette syndrome and comorbid issues. We've got a lot of experience here behind us with the living life with Tourette syndrome in a school setting. Hi, Kathy.
And you left out that I'm a mother of 3 children.
Mother of 3 children. Yes. Most important role of all, right?
Yeah. One of them significantly impacted since the age of 5, and the other 2, impacted, but not that significantly.
I was lucky enough to meet one of them at the National Tourette Conference.
So, Matthew?
Yep. He's got a really cool product coming out that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, good. Me too.
So tell me, we talk a lot about, you and I were just going back and forth a moment ago about using the word comorbid versus co-occurring. Oftentimes there is a really high incident that it's never just Tourette syndrome or tics alone. There's a lot of other acting pieces to it. What do you say comorbid? Do you say co-occurring? Is there a difference? Well,
I think there's a difference, and I think there's an important difference, but it kind of depends on my audience because a lot of people, comorbid just sounds like a nasty word. So, a lot of parents don't want to hear the word comorbid, but I went to a conference because I used to use related or co-occurring, but the doctor explained that related and co-occurring, it's kind of like you can have, if you have the flu, you'll have a related sore throat. But with Tourette, with comorbid, they impact each other. So if you've got tics, you've got Tourette, you probably have some difficulty with getting thoughts from the brain to the paper with handwriting. And you also may have some obsessive compulsive behaviors with perfectionism. So the need to be perfect with your writing, the difficulty with writing and difficulty with handwriting impacts your obsessive compulsive part to be perfect. So, and the disinhibition symptom impacts everything, and social skills impacts, academics. They impact each other. So it's comorbid.
That actually speaks to what Dr. Christine Conalia, the neurologist we've had on the episode here, she runs the Minnesota Tic and Compulsivity Lab in Minnesota, and talking about how they're shaping the brain or mapping the brain with imaging and how all of these layers are connected.
Really?
It's not this old school view of the brain where this part is this part is this part is this. There's circuitry where you use all of them to work together.
Which makes sense.
It makes sense, right? We don't work in isolation.
No, and the brain certainly doesn't. So, I have, in my over 35 years, I don't think I've ever met anybody just with tics.
Yeah.
But that could be because people wouldn't come and talk to me if it was just tics. Usually people that reach out to me have more significant issues with their kids or with their student.
What age students do you work with?
Well, typically school age, typically age 5 through 18, 21.
Wow, so you're talking elementary school, middle school, high school.
Right.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
whole gambit. There's not just like one age group, just the middle schoolers or the...
No, and I used to be a middle school teacher, so I understand it's difficult being a middle school teacher. I support all teachers. I think right now, particularly, it's hard to be a teacher.
Gosh, just helping out in my kids' classes. I have so much appreciation. I am in awe of teachers, learning from them every day.
Yeah.
Yes, agreed.
And it's important because in elementary school, studies have shown that in elementary school, kids with Tourette are oftentimes very bright. And so in elementary, their intellect disguises their symptoms. So that, oftentimes they will do okay in elementary school. And then they get to middle school, and of course, middle school. But in middle school, it starts getting harder and there's more stress. And so the symptoms start to disguise the intellect. And by high school, symptoms can really be impacted. Like executive functioning can really, really, really impact high school's performance.
So what are some of the support mechanisms that you use when you help meet with student teams? Is it the student and the parent? Is it the teacher? Is it the principal? Is it the school nurse? Like, who are the student teams when you meet with people?
Typically, it's a parent that will ask me, or it'll be the school that will ask me, but I always want to check with the parent first to make sure that they're okay with me. And plus, I like to talk to the parents to find out what the parent thinks are the specific difficulties. So I usually encourage the parents not to attend because teachers aren't going to ask me what they need to ask me if the parents are there.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
So is this a layered approach? Do you have several meetings? Is it one big meeting to get things in place? Or is it really kind of an open sphere for teachers to learn more without, just to honestly ask more?
In the ideal world, I for many years, I worked with the Tourette Association for over 20 years, traveling all over the country. I went to every state doing presentations just to, educate educators.
Wow.
So in the ideal situation, I like doing a presentation because it's not specific to one student. It's a general overview of Tourette. And then to meet with the team of the student. And it can be the principal, the psychologist, the counselor, the teachers. I mean, it can be anybody who wants to join the team and ask me questions. And, sometimes teachers will ask me questions and they don't want the parents to know that they're wondering whether or not it's the parents' fault. Because unfortunately, too often parents are blamed. And I understand why, because a lot of times kids with Tourette will suppress when they're in a public setting and then they get home and they kind of explode. And so the homework's not done. And, maybe there's a lot of absences. And so the parent will try to explain to the teachers what's going on, but then it sounds like excuses. And it's not an excuse. It's reality. But I understand the kids are cute usually. They're bright, they're talented, and so they're in school and they look like they're doing perfectly fine. When my son was diagnosed at the age of 5, he was in kindergarten, and the teacher thought I was crazy bringing him to be diagnosed because his behavior in school was totally different than what it was at home. So it's hard. I like the team meetings because it gives the teachers and the team an opportunity to answer specific questions about the student.
I get that. That makes sense. It's, yeah, at first, when you said, you encourage the parent not to be there, that's because you are advocating for the condition, on behalf of the parent. And really, that's education.
I prefer to be introduced as a Tourette specialist because then they're gonna believe me more.
Yeah, right. There's education behind being an education specialist.
Right.
How long?
Go ahead.
How long have you been the International Education Committee chair for tics and Tourette across the globe?
Not very long. TTAG's only been around for 3 years. And so I've been the chair for a little over a year. Last July is when I became the chairperson.
Wow. Well, congrats for that.
Thank you.
What are the roles of that position?
Well, it's kind of interesting because, for so many years I worked for the Tourette Association of America, and they have chapters.
Right.
Whereas TTAG is like an umbrella. So there's I think there's 3 Tourette organizations in Spain, and there's a couple in Italy.
I think there's one in Scotland,
one in Greenland,
right?
And Iceland and Australia. And so there's Tourette organizations, and they fall under the umbrella of TTAG. So what I do as the education chairperson is try to provide information that the organizations can use. We don't want to step on any toes. We want to support them, not overtake them.
Right. Interesting. So that's a lot of different countries to organize, and
it really is. And 37 years, I have a ton of resources. So I've got to take those resources and put them in a language. English is what I, unfortunately. But I have to use pretty common English words because those are translated easier. Right now, when I do a presentation, it's translated, right on the screen, which is it's just astounding.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible. But I have to be careful. In the United States, we have 504s and we have IEPs, and obviously I can't use any of that language. And I have to try to be careful to use language that is universal.
For a very complex and individualized condition.
Right.
That changes over time.
Right. Yeah. So
you have quite the undertaking.
It's a little challenging.
to put it nicely, yes.
Yeah. But I think most people are happy to get any kind of support. Most people are happy to get support. And I think they asked me to be the chair. And this is bizarre to me, okay? Because my name is pretty well known internationally.
Yeah.
And so TTAG wanted me because of my name. Also because of my knowledge and my information. But there's people all over the world that I get messages from. Oh, I'm so glad because, I know you and I've heard of you. Everybody knows the iceberg.
Yeah. The iceberg picture I kind of have 2 audiences here. One of them, I do think that people are finding the movement side of Tourette to be intriguing. But then also the Tourette community side that is just looking for other ways to help with symptoms. But the picture of the iceberg is, the tip of the iceberg, which is only, a portion of it. Those are the things that the rest of us can see and hear, the motor tics, the vocal tics, everything under that iceberg, which makes up the bulk of it, is all of these comorbid conditions, rage attacks, OCD, ADHD, sensory processing disorder. So all of these other things.
Yes.
So that's the iceberg picture that Kathy's referring to.
And I actually developed the iceberg, about 12 years ago.
You did?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was you, that you had a part in that.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. That's when I was working for the Tourette Association.
Did not know that, because that is an image that's the quickest visual. I think all of us with Tourette, we kind of I have like 3 or 4 different explanations for it, depending on how somebody asks me or how I disclose to somebody that I grew up with Tourette syndrome. I have all these different explanations depending on context, but the iceberg is kind of the quickest visual to give somebody. This is what I'm dealing with. You can see this, and if any of that bothers you, well, let's learn more, because there's a lot more down below.
Yeah, and oftentimes it's the comorbid stuff that interfere with a person's life more than the tics. I mean, I know kids, I've worked with people that have major tics and not too many comorbids. And then I've worked with people that have really minor tics, but major comorbid stuff. Yeah.
That would be I would fit in that category.
Yeah, it's tough. It's people don't understand, and I've heard a lot over the years. Teachers and people will say to me, "Well, that's not Tourette because he's not swearing,"
right?
Or he did this behavior, but it wasn't really a tic, so it had nothing to do with Tourette. Well, it still may be due to Tourette, even though it's not classified as a tic.
I feel like anybody that speaks about Tourette, we almost have to break a first impression. Wherever it first came out that swearing was Tourette syndrome, like that was the first impression, and that's what has grown legs, unfortunately, when it's a small percentage of what it is.
It really is. Yeah. I think it's less than 12% of the people that have Tourette.
I do see varying statistics between 8 to 10%.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's just a small piece of it. Like we're saying right now, there's so many other things that need tending to, that need support.
And I think that's what makes it so complicated. I mean, a lot of diagnosed disabilities, there's variances, but not like Tourette.
Yeah.
Tourette is so varied for each individual. I mean, if you know one person with Tourette, you know one person with Tourette.
Right.
And unfortunately, I've gone into meetings. Well, I know all about Tourette because, my neighbor has Tourette, or I had a student with Tourette 5 years ago. Well, that's wonderful.
Right.
But that may help you, but it's not this kid's issues necessarily.
Right.
And it's hard.
When you help build strategies, because we, briefly mentioned 504s and IEPs, I know you've had a presentation before on, what was it? It was functional behavior assessments. What are functional behavior assessments and positive intervention plans? What are those?
Well, when functional behavioral assessments hasn't always been part of the federal law. And so when that became part under IDEA, I wanted to pop the champagne, because I thought this is the answer. So an FBA, I used to help with functional behavioral assessments. And in my mind, the ideal thing is to a person in a good setting and observe them in a setting where they have difficulties. I like to observe. I mean, ideally, I like to observe all day long without the kid knowing that I'm observing. So that can be a little tricky.
Right.
And I keep a notebook, and every few minutes I write down what is happening, what's happening in the class, how the person is responding. So if I see a student that is in science and has very few symptoms, and then goes into math and has a ton of symptoms, then, you naturally think he's got problems with math, or there's more stress because of math, or is it the time of day?
Right.
So a functional behavioral assessment is what is the function of the behavior? Why is the behavior occurring? And a positive and proactive intervention plan is actually a plan for the teachers, for the educators, on developing positive and proactive strategies so that the behavior is less likely to reoccur.
Okay. So I feel like this is a very tricky hair to split.
Mm-hmm.
Are these behaviors or tics? Is a tic a behavior?
I don't. I wish when I started out that I wasn't using the word behaviors, because I now use the word symptoms for everything. A tic is a symptom. A kid calling somebody a bad name is a symptom. A kid refusing to do math is a symptom. We're having behaviors right now.
Right.
But unfortunately, behaviors has kind of a bad connotation, because when you say behaviors, you're going to sort of immediately think of bad.
Right. Or that it's something that you can control. Fix your behavior, change that, control that behavior, which we know with Tourette syndrome, there's things that you cannot.
Right. So when I do presentations now, I don't talk much about behaviors. I talk more about symptoms.
Okay. So
but functional behavioral assessment was developed years and years and years ago. So it's trying to figure out, where the symptoms are the best and where they are the most disruptive, and how do we get the setting that is most impacted more like the setting where it's least impacted. So in science, first the kid is able to walk around and isn't being lectured to, where in math you're just sitting there and you might not understand what is happening with math, whereas with science it's kind of a hands-on thing, and a lot of people with Tourette do better with hands-on. So an FBA, a functional behavioral assessment, would show that the most difficult setting is math and the best setting is science, and how do we get them to be more similar?
Interesting. So you're looking for these correlations that you can help. And so what would be it's so hard to talk hypotheticals here because we keep mentioning that everything is so individualized.
Yeah.
What are some tools at your disposal? Is it, earplugs over the ear? Is it a fidget toy? Is it what are some things that you are able to help implement in a classroom setting?
Yeah.
Changing where the kid sits, what?
Yeah, it really does depend on the kid. I've had people put a lot of kids have sensory issues.
Yeah.
And so I've had teachers tape sandpaper underneath the desk, or they have some kind of a silky thing in their pockets. Or breaks. I think breaks are important, but too many times breaks are set up so that they take a break at 10:30 and then they take another break at 12:30. Well, they may not need a break at 10:30.
Right.
I like breaks as needed. And for some reason, I have found, and of course it's not universally true, but I have found that most students with Tourette aren't going to lie about the fact that they need a break. And they don't want to be called out. Johnny, do you need a break? Johnny, I think you should go take a break. That's not going to go over well. So my son had, when he was in second grade, he had a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful teacher. And
they make all the difference.
Oh, all the difference. Yeah, it really does. She was just amazing. And so my husband and I, in the day were old hippies. And so my son would do the peace sign when he needed a break. And his teacher would either, just very gently say either yes or, no, not right now. And she talked to him ahead of time. You got to set up the plan with the kid. The kid's got to be involved in setting up the plan. So if she would shake her head no, he knew that as soon as it was possible for him to go take a break, she would say yes. And so he was able to suppress whatever he needed to suppress, for a little bit anyways.
For a short amount of time.
Yeah, I like breaks as needed. I don't like them written.
Gosh, I wish I remembered who kind of coined this term, but in the movement world, everybody's trying to get people moving more frequently, taking more breaks. She called it a snack break. And if I think of who coined that term, I will put it in the show notes, but I love that idea. Go take a snack break. It's, you got to move a little bit, and that's your time that you can release whatever it is you need to release, satisfy whatever urge it is that you need to satisfy, and resume.
And plus eat.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Dr. Ross Green?
No.
Oh, you got to check out his website. It's called
Writing
Lives in the Balance.
Okay.
He gets it.
Does he work with Tourette or neurological conditions, or is he?
Yeah. Okay. He's not just Tourette.
Okay.
He's neurological. And he says that anything that stresses the brain is going to impact the neurology, obviously.
Yeah.
So if you're hungry, that's stressful.
Yeah.
If you're thirsty, that's stressful. So with snacks, are a good thing.
See, it's interesting studying kind of the neurology of movement. Obviously we know that there's involuntary movement, and that's what a tic is. But there are voluntary movements that you can do. And really in studying that, you have to make the body feel safe. When the body feels safe, it can reduce its sympathetic tone, and whatever that balance is between sympathetic and parasympathetic, but to give the body some sort of input that will reduce stress. Right, and whatever that is going to be completely individualized, but more recesses, more movement breaks, more breaks as needed. And hopefully, gosh, how crazy would that be to actually try to manage, though, if kids could be able to take breaks when they needed, but then knew how to get back to work. You don't make them wait like a floodgate, wait, and then go. And then, it just, the rhythm is thrown off. They might find a better rhythm within themselves to take a break, come back to work, take a break, come back to work.
Yeah. And usually, I mean, if the plan is set so that the break involves going down the hall a little bit and getting a drink, then the kid is back within, 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So, in my experience, I haven't really found a whole lot of kids that take advantage of it.
Right. I have to say, I did not have any formal IEP or 504 growing up. My mom, both of my parents were incredible with informing my teachers and the school. It was in my first grade classroom. They had a little futon area that they put for me. I was on medication, and there were times that would just make me absolutely zonk out. And I maybe used it 2 or 3 times. One time I didn't even recognize, because the teacher she did call me out. Raquel, why don't you go, lay down for a minute? Because I didn't even realize that I had fallen asleep. In the middle of class. The medication I was on just absolutely made me zonk out. And but there's not abuse of the help when it comes to something like this.
Right. And nowadays they have the bicycle things that are under the desk, and they have
all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, they really do a lot of sensory stuff.
Yes.
Which is great.
I know Dr. Kelly Starrett and Juliet Starrett were really instrumental in doing stand-up desks up where they live, and with really incredible results, that the kids could move. And have you found, both personally and professionally, any sort of movement help or any other help, whether it was with you and your family or with kids in these meetings that you've set up? Anything in the movement realm aside from just taking a break?
Oh, absolutely. Some kids will walk back and forth in the back of the room when the teacher is lecturing, or sometimes chewing gum, or movement. I mean, my son with the drumming, any kind of, I see a lot of movement is helpful for kids with Tourette.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's me, my life, and my world.
Yeah. Yeah. But unfortunately, it's not conducive sometimes to what teachers want. They don't want the kid walking in the back of the classroom.
Right.
Some teachers do. Some teachers don't mind.
Right.
Um, some kids will get down and do push-ups, or they'll, push against the wall. Get down. There was one little girl I knew that she used to drop her pencil on purpose so that she'd have a reason to get down on the floor.
Interesting.
Um,
She found a way to create that for herself. How interesting. See, I hear different things. When you say push up, I think, okay, they're looking for a high neural load. If they're looking for, to drop their pencil, this up and down, they're looking for some sort of, maybe it's a crawling sensation, maybe it's a vestibular thing that they need to change, just literally their position. Or if they're pacing back and forth, maybe they are better with just a higher heart rate threshold. But it's a quest of mine to help offer options like this, because I think if kids know their movement preferences, their sensory preferences, it's just another tool for them, and a more specific tool instead of a guess. There might be a stress. Okay, you can go take a break, but what do I do?
Exactly.
What now?
Right.
What, and so to give those tools, okay, here's your tool belt.
Right.
But
yeah. At some point, I wanted to bring up my son's invention, but we
yes,
can do that
please do, because I want to have him on. I think next podcast season. Yes, tell us about it.
Well, it's drumming helped him, and movement, especially
Rhythmical movement too.
Yeah, music. Everybody knows that music helps calm down, stress, and movement, especially when it's each hand impacting different parts of the brain. So the drumming. So what he has invented is some bracelets that the person can choose any song they want, anything, and with the bracelets they will feel. So it's a sensory thing too. They will feel the music. They can air drum, and they will feel the drumming, and it can either be silently. They can just hear themselves. It may allow them to stay in the classroom because they could silently, be air drumming and stay in, or for a break, they could go to the OT room and do some drumming for 5 minutes. Or it can be out loud too. So it's really kind of complicated and vast. But
you don't have headphones with it, right? Or
you
do
can.
you?
Yep.
That's an option.
It's Bluetooth.
Okay.
So it can be silent except for, the kid that is listening to it. Or you can plug it into a speaker. So my son goes to a lot of open mics, and it really helps with social because people like drummers. It's just a given.
That's a lot of attention and talking and
Yeah. And so kids with Tourette, that if they do their drumming, they can go to an open mic and play they don't even have to have instruments. Or you can have a whole bunch of people do a drum circle. Everybody have a bracelet, and you can do a drum circle. So it's the ramifications of it are huge. And the website is myecholife.com.
I'll put that in there too. The first of all, like tapping is a calming strategy. That's a somatic therapy. Is just tapping.
Yep.
And then everybody knows that kid that was like constantly like, making a rhythm and pounding on themselves. There's something about that percussive beat, that percussive sensation and feeling. So yeah, I actually was able to try these at last year's Tourette conference.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
The Tourette Association of America puts on a national conference every year called TTAG. And that's where I was able to try this. And you put on the bracelets and you can be holding drumsticks or not. But once you start moving, you feel that percussive rhythm for every pound, every swipe on your wrist.
Yep.
which is
Yep.
great. You don't need a full a full drum set to do that. So again, you could do it in the classroom, you could do it in the movie theater, you can do it in a crowd to what you're talking about. I didn't realize that you could have it on Bluetooth as well. So then you can actually hear and go too, but it's like bringing an iPod to life.
Yeah. I think it's going to be big for hearing impaired.
Yeah, because you can feel it.
Yeah. People they might not be able to hear the music, but they'll be able to feel it.
You know, didn't they say that Mozart was hearing impaired?
Yes.
Right? I mean, Mozart.
Yeah.
Mozart was
he could have used the Echo Life stuff.
He could have. I think that's incredible.
Yeah. So you'll want to have, and you met my son. He's so charming and bright. You'll love having him on.
Yeah, we gabbed about it for a little bit. I get it, and he gets it, and I get that he gets it.
Yeah.
It's a very, very cool. I'm excited. And both of my kids love drums too. We actually just toured a drum factory that's near us.
Really?
And oh my gosh, it was so cool.
I wish I had kept track of how many kids that I've worked with that like drumming with Tourette.
There's something about that heavy input, and it's rhythmical.
Rhythmical,
that's a theme that I'm seeing.
Yes. I think they have the natural rhythm. I mean, my son took lessons from the lead percussionist of the Rochester Philharmonic, and he would rarely practice. And so I said to his teacher one time, I'm really sorry he doesn't practice. And she said, he doesn't need to practice. He's got this naturally. And I think a lot of people with Tourette do have that just naturally. So it's, and I would have loved to have had something where my son could come home from school and silently drum.
That's something I hear too. It's honestly, we do have a drum set at home, and I just hand out earplugs. Like, my kids are going to drum. Yours are going to drum too when they come over to play. So here's and I'm going to let them.
Yeah. Well,
so here's your earplugs.
I would have liked the silent stuff.
That would have been much more better.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, man. That makes sense. I actually did a music episode. Music was a pretty big part of a tool for me. And in it, I used to fall asleep to the Metallica song Enter Sandman.
Oh.
And it was just the heavy, consistent bass of it. Yeah. I could connect with that, and I would go to sleep. And
that's really interesting too, because he has the bracelets that he has. It kind of keeps track of your heartbeat or something. And so when you're trying to go to sleep, you put the music on and you can feel the rhythm, but it will, as it feels you calming down, it gets softer and softer until it finally realizes that you're asleep, and then it turns off.
That's amazing. Oh yeah. Enter Sandman didn't do that.
Yeah. Metallica. Wow.
There was something about the rhythm. I'd be the only one sleeping at a Metallica concert. Like, that's my lullaby. That's my
yeah. Wow. Yeah.
It's the thing that works is the thing that works.
Yeah. I wake up like at 2:00 in the morning and can't go back to sleep. And there's this, you might know it. It's a Calm app.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah. And I put that on, and that helps me go back to sleep.
Oh, sleep is precious.
Well, it really is. It's important. Yeah. I've been doing this for a lot of years. And so a while when I first started out, we'd sit around, all these adults would sit around the table and come up with this wonderful idea and this plan. And then we'd invite the kid in and say, okay, when you're doing this, or when you're feeling like this, you can do this. And I can't tell you the number of times the kid would say, well, that's stupid. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, like, why? What?
So what do you think would work?
Yeah.
Have the child involved in developing the plan. So important.
So again, is there a layering? So at first you might have a meeting with just the educators. And at what point, if the parent does agree to not attend that meeting, at what point does the parent and the kid get involved? Does it with the meetings? Is it at that same sit down, or is it, a whole other meeting? Is it a rolling idea that you guys put together?
I'm not involved all that much. But probably what I have seen is after I meet with the team, then the team meets with the child or just the child. I like meeting just with the child sometimes, but then meeting with the child and the parent and developing some kind of plan. I'm not usually involved in that.
Okay, so it's a separate part.
Yeah, I mean I provide information for the parents, and they share with the student, but mostly I just ask the child what would be helpful.
Yeah. They know. Like, I do think that if a kid is aware of their premonitory urge, which is not everybody, that's part of, CBIT, is helping them become aware of the premonitory urge that most of the time precedes a tic, not always.
Right.
But if you can feel that premonitory urge, then you probably have an idea of what feels better.
Right, or what works. I went to again, a long time ago, I went to a conference, and it was talking about CBIT. And I didn't know what CBIT was, so I wanted to sit in and listen to this. And they were talking about, the urge, and if you can figure out something. And they actually talked about a neck tic. I don't have Tourette, but I've had a neck tic all my life. And unfortunately, being in that lecture and talking about neck tics, I then had a neck tic for like 3 years, and I ended up with a brace, and it was pretty significant. But I thought about the CBIT thing, and so what I do now, when I have the urge to do my neck, I take my thumb and press it into one of my fingers until it's painful. Really painful, and that has taken the place of doing my neck.
I find that fascinating. First of all, like, kudos to you for figuring out a management tool for yourself. But I'm trying not to get all cranial nervy anatomical here, but I think that there's a reason for that, and that we can study that and then help give that to other people to be tools. But
and see, and that's that's you.
Yeah.
I don't know all that how the brain works, and I don't, and I'm old now, so I don't really want to learn.
But this is why this is why the podcast exists. We talk to Tourette professionals, we talk to movement specialists, and the individual or practitioner can, piece by piece, what things might help with others. But
yeah, we've come a long ways.
There's another big topic I want to talk to you about, and that's, going back to kind of our original topic of comorbid conditions co-occurring. Rage is a very large comorbid condition with Tourette and ADHD and OCD. And, oftentimes, to your point, a kid might be suppressing throughout the day, which is uncomfortable, by the way. And then when they get home, talk about those floodgates with things opening. But what is your experience with rage attacks?
Unfortunately, my experience is vast. My son had major, and this was back in the 1990s.
Okay.
So they really didn't know much about it, and they didn't have, the only medicine they had back then was Haldol. Okay. And Haldol, because he had major tics too. I mean, it was very common for us to go to a doctor and for the doctor to say that Matthew's Tourette is the worst they've ever seen, because his tics were really, really, really significant, and his rage was really, really significant. And I say, I see a lot of kids that have the talent. I mean, Matthew's talent with the drumming was huge, off the charts. His rage was off the charts. So, and I can't really say they balanced each other, but the drumming did help. But the rage is handled a whole lot differently than when my son was young. He's 43 now. So, back then people were telling me what to do, as a regular parenting type strategy. You need to punish him more. You need to take his drums away. You need to, do negative things when he does this. Well, that only made it worse.
Yeah.
So one of the things I try to help parent, because I run, or I used to, I'm not sure that because of funding, the federal funding, I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to continue with the rage support groups. But one of the things I like to tell parents, first of all, you got to understand disinhibition, and you've also got to not take symptoms personally, and you need to walk away and stop talking. That's one thing we parents are not good at. Stop talking.
Right. That part.
Yeah. Because we think if we use logic that we can help. Neurological rage has nothing to do with logic.
No, it does not.
No. So, trying to figure out, we finally figured out when my son would come home from school, okay, you go and you play your drums. And that would help somewhat reduce the rage episodes, because it would reduce his anxiety. And trying to figure out what to do ahead of time. I'm really in favor of positive and proactive. And so every kid is different.
Right.
My son would go into a rage because when my husband would come home from work, he would breathe. And that would send my son into a rage because he felt like my husband's germs were deadly.
Yeah.
And of course, my husband didn't take that real well, which didn't help calm things down at all.
Of course not. There's escalation here from, doing a regular human act that.
Right. Yeah. You can't talk to me like that.
Right. It doesn't take much to set something off.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And the rage is, it's not anger.
It's something way beyond that.
Yeah. It's holes in the wall. It's busted windows. It's, threats, dangerous threats. It can be really extreme, and it's hard.
It's incredibly hard. That's not easy for anyone. Just being mad, upset is not easy for anyone, let alone having a rage attack that there was no logical reason to be mad about something. It's not something that you can fix or solve. It's you have to ride this wave a little bit and then figure out how to rebound and recognize any possible trigger, which is almost kind of a needle in a haystack, because that can be changing too. It
really is. People tell me all the time, well, you need to figure out the trigger. Well, good luck on that one.
Yeah.
Because it can change. And what we need to do is to, I went to this presentation with Rick Lavoie, and he had a vase. And he says that we all have an anxiety vase. So the kid wakes up in the morning, and in theory, the vase will be fairly empty. Well, this kid would go downstairs, and he always had Cheerios. His sister purposely was eating the last bowl of Cheerios.
Introduce siblings here.
Yes. So he gets some in his vase, and then he gets on the school bus, and then he gets to school, and there's a substitute teacher, and the substitute teacher gives an unannounced quiz. So now his vase is totally full, and some kid bumps into him, not on purpose, but just bumps into him and knocks his books on the floor. The vase overflows. And so the kid throws his desk, runs after the kid, and starts kicking him and hitting him. And we look at what happened right before, rather than looking at the fact that his vase was full. And what happened right before, you think, wow, he overreacted. Well, he didn't overreact, because the vase was full. So what we need to help kids recognize is their vase. How does it feel when your vase is getting full? And when it's halfway full, what reduces it? For my son, it's drums.
Yeah.
For some people, it may be walking, it may be singing, it may be humming, it may be, drawing, doodling. It could be a lot of different things that are going to reduce the vase, but the kid needs to know what's going to reduce his vase. And then everybody needs to go along with it.
Right. Let them do that activity. Let them go. Yeah.
It's hard. And what I have found most times now, everything I say about Tourette is most times or sometimes or generally.
Right. Or it depends.
Yes. Yeah. But a lot of times you find the kid apologizing afterwards.
Right.
And
they're remorseful.
they don't mean to do it.
Yeah.
And so I had one parent say, well, I don't care if he apologizes. I'm not going to forgive him. And I said, well, you stop forgiving him, he's going to stop apologizing. And then you're in trouble.
Right.
So they don't mean it. I mean, they're not apologizing just to blow smoke. They're apologizing because they're really sorry. My son would say, Mom, why do I hurt the people that I love most? And why did God make me this way? And would you be better if I'd never been born? It's tough stuff.
That's heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
It's heartbreaking. And especially too now as a parent, getting that from the child, why is this happening? I don't want it to happen. They don't want to be having these rage attacks either.
No.
But to get that from there, and then to have, the parenting community not understand that this is a combined thing, that they're separate, that rage is behavior and tics are symptoms, it goes back to circuitry. It's all interwound. It's all connected. And I think that's why it's so incredible, the work that you're doing as an education specialist, to let people know that needs to be considered when looking at both.
Mm-hmm. Especially my generation wasn't brought up in a way, we were brought up that you punish.
Right.
And I find it's still true with a lot of European countries, that it's hard to get across that these kids aren't doing it on purpose.
Right.
And that we really do need to forgive them. I can't tell you, oh my God, can't tell you the thousands of times my son has said how sorry he is. And almost always, he doesn't live at home anymore. So if something happens, I know for sure that I'm going to get a phone call or I'm going to get a message. I love you, Mom. And he wants to hear that I still love him.
Yeah. Unconditional support.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. That's what it's about. We love them, and they're our child.
Right.
And they don't want to do this. They didn't before they were born. They didn't say, hey, I want to have Tourette syndrome.
I remember having that self-recognition moment. I was 8, 9, or 10. I was diagnosed at 5. And I could feel my premonitory urges then, but I remember sobbing to my mom, I'm so sorry. I thought I was a fraud because I could feel it coming. So then I thought that I could control it. Oh, but if I feel it coming, but it still happens, why am I not stopping it? And the difference of parental support is the same as an incredible teacher.
Yes.
And it all comes down to education. Like, that's the common denominator here.
Really is
learning the complexity of this condition, learning how to make adaptations depending on the unique needs of that individual.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think ultimately everybody wants success. Teachers want success for their children. Parents want success for their kids. And
the kid wants to be successful.
The kid wants to be successful.
Right.
They also want to play. And that's going to look wildly different for everybody.
One of the things with TTAG, our big thing is awareness. We want to bring awareness. And I think that's a nice term, particularly when you're dealing with so many different cultures and so many different languages and so many different countries. If we can bring awareness, I think that's the key, because awareness is going to lead to education.
Right. I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do with the movement world here. I'm talking to movement professionals, because we can all speak the same language of movement.
Mm-hmm.
So finding common denominators to then extrapolate into the bigger topics and bigger conversations. But I think you're spot on. Awareness is key. First of all, you have to know that this condition exists, that this is what it is.
Right. Yeah. Number one on the hit parade.
Right.
Yeah. And I love what you're doing, because I have seen forever, since my kid was very little, that movement had a major impact. And I've heard over the years that, my medicine is going to the gym.
Yeah.
My medicine is exercising.
There's a very popular phrase, and again, I forget who said this too, but movement is medicine.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
mean, that one's not me. I'll quote that. I think it was a philosopher, but
oh yeah, it is for sure. Yeah, I mean, when I'm a little bit, we live in the middle of no place, and so when I get a little down or a little crazy, I go for a walk. I go for a walk on the road, or I go for a walk in the woods, and it helps.
I've got two questions for you. First of all, when you were talking about, just being a parent of somebody with Tourette, talked about knowing what disinhibition is. What is disinhibition? I can't even say it. What is disinhibition?
Disinhibition is one of the most complex, for me. I think it's one of the most complex symptoms to understand, and I to recognize and to understand. Disinhibition is supposedly now we talked about how the brain is all interconnected, but it's the basal ganglia of the brain. Mm-hmm. And I used to be an English teacher, not science. But I saw on Google or someplace that the basal ganglia is the part of the brain that controls what you do and what you say and how you feel in the moment. So disinhibition is, we all think bad things, especially when we're angry. But I'm able to inhibit most times.
My facial expressions might not always, but
right. I used to get in trouble in school for facial expressions. But people with neurological challenges, their basal ganglia is impacted in any given moment. It might be working perfectly fine. It's the inconsistencies of the disinhibition that makes it even more difficult, because I know he's doing that I know he's doing that on purpose, because he can control that when he's in, gym, or when he's in lunch or whatever. Right. It depends on when the basal ganglia is impacted. And that's got to do with the rage. When the basal ganglia gets out of whack, and then the adrenaline kicks in, and then you're lost.
Yeah.
Then you're into a rage. And, we understand it. I had an aunt that, never said darn. I mean, she never said anything until she got to be in her 80s and she got dementia, and her basal ganglia was not working well.
Wow, so night and day flip.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that, like, what do they say? A sailor. And
curse like a sailor.
Yeah. And her husband, their whole marriage, everybody knew that he cheated on her, and she never said anything their whole marriage until in her 80s.
Then it all came out.
Oh gosh. Boy, did it come out. So, and we accept that people that drink too much alcohol might have a problem with inhibiting. Why can't we accept that people with neurological challenge have a hard time inhibiting on occasion? I just wish people could accept that. That explains, for me, disinhibition explains Tourette.
Why can people accept it with impairments voluntary impairments of, having a couple drinks, but they can't understand it from a neurological condition.
Right. Yeah.
That is Tourette.
Yeah. Drives me nuts. And, even I'm not a coffee drinker, but I've heard a lot of people say, you don't want to talk to me before I have my cup of coffee in the morning. Well, you may have some disinhibition before you have your coffee.
Right. It is.
Disinhibition, I think is just, I think it's huge. I think it's just, if everybody could just understand disinhibition.
Disinhibition. That's the awareness of Tourette syndrome.
Yeah.
That is the crux of it.
I think so.
Well, my second question, are you still helping put teams together? If there is a parent, a clinician, a teacher listening that needs support, needs help, where can they go? What resources should they look for when trying to find support for their students or their child?
Well, they could go to the Tourette Association. They won't find me there.
Okay.
In order to get me specifically, I mean, the Tourette Association has a lot of resources, a lot of information.
They do, and they have a lot specifically for educators too.
To get me specifically, they'd have to, probably email me.
Okay.
So
they can email you. I do. I can put that in our show notes, or you can email me and I can share that with anybody. If they were to set something like this up themselves at school, can they call for a meeting? Can they?
The school or the parent?
The parent.
Yeah, the parent can. And all it is a team meeting. I mean, teachers get together and have team meetings all the time.
Yeah.
They would just have one where I was invited. And they ask me questions. That's really key. The parent needs to let the school know that I'm not there to educate them or tell them what to do. I'm there to answer their questions. And in answering their questions, I provide awareness and information and strategies.
Which is wonderful, because then you can help fill any gaps of anything that works within their own school system or the way that particular school class is run, and what some strategies are based on their questions, based on the kid.
Yeah. I mean, I can't tell you, okay, here's a strategy that's going to work for every kid with Tourette. That doesn't work that way. But with a team meeting, I get a sense of, tell me what the kid does. What are your questions? What do you need? And from that, I get a sense of what's going on. And then I can help them figure out some strategies. And I want to empower them to come up with the strategies.
So it's awareness of Tourette, which is disinhibition, it's conversation, and it's a team.
Right.
I love that.
And Kathy, a lot of teachers, I have found that a lot of teachers, I mean, they want to help. That's
why they're a teacher.
Yeah, you don't go into teaching to make $1 million. You go into teaching because you want to help kids, and so they really do want to help. And they struggle. They don't know what to do with these kids,
especially when it's so varied.
Yeah.
Awesome. Kathy, I so appreciate your time. This has been very, very insightful, and thank you for what you're doing and the years that you've been doing it. I'm very, very grateful.
Oh, you're welcome. And hopefully I'll continue to be able to do it for a while longer.
Yes.
Everybody says that on my deathbed, I will still be talking about Tourette. So,
well, I mean, man, once you've lived it, and
it's my passion.
Truly. And I got to say, the Tourette community is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the Tourette community is amazing. It's incredible to see the empathy and compassion from so many people that don't have the same tics, but know what that feeling is like of disinhibition.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an incredible community.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. And we will talk again soon. We love providing a platform for sharing ideas about living with Tourette syndrome and other tic disorders. While we strive to keep the content evidence based, please understand that exercise science, information about Tourette syndrome, and its co occurring conditions are constantly evolving. The content shared in this podcast are for informational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. By listening to this podcast, you agree to not use the information as a substitute for professional medical advice or treatment for yourself or your child. As always, consult your healthcare provider before making any medical decisions or starting any treatments related to Tourette syndrome or other health conditions, which also includes mental health. This disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to the podcast. TickFit and the podcast team do not take any responsibility for any actions taken based on the information provided. Our goal is to educate, support, and raise awareness, not to diagnose or treat any medical condition. Thanks for listening.